Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Christian Barnes. I am the founder and lead financial coach of Do Better Financial, and welcome back to We Economy Wednesday. This is our first Wednesday in June. I can barely believe that half of the year is already gone, but we're going to try and do what we can to make the most of the second half. For the last few weeks, we have been talking about some of the ways that you can move forward when you're trying to do something new. Obviously, I've been hosting a new January challenge where we've each been encouraging one another as we try some new things. Some people are trying to do acts of kindness. Some people are trying to be more physically active. Some people are trying to stop spending money, right? All sorts of things. And I am trying to write a course, amongst other things. So today is going to be more of this something similar. We're going to be talking about I'm sorry, we've got some technical difficulties. Is everything okay?
Yeah, we're good. No.
Okay, cool. Sorry, my husband was touching the camera and I couldn't think. My brain stopped working. So today we're going to be talking about something slightly different but still on topic. So as a financial coach, obviously I help people with their money, right? Getting out of debt, saving more for college or for a home, planning for retirement, trying to have one that doesn't include you hoping and praying that the government doesn't defund Social Security, right? That can be icing on the cake instead of the cake. Sad cake, more like rice cake. But what I realize is that money is not a means into itself. People don't just pile up money because it helps them sleep. Well, I'm sure some people do, but it's a means to an end. It's all about what we do with it that really impacts our lives. So if you go out and blow it, you can end up feeling really sad. If you invested in something that's worthwhile to you, or if you're able to use it for a good cause, it can change the way that you feel about the way that you have used your money. So a lot of the benefits that I mentioned earlier, financial freedom, we talk about all the time, having that safety net, less stress, and being able to retire comfortably. But there's a third one that we just don't talk about very much, and that is the ability to be wildly generous. So not having lots of other people that you owe can open you up to opportunities to support things that are important to you. I told you guys different stories about how in the past, once I became debt-free, I was able to take some impromptu trips debt-free, and I was able to do things like buy bikes and art and stuff like that. And I've probably told you guys those stories a few times, but one story that I just don't talk about very much for a couple of reasons is some of the giving that I've been able to do. And I'm going to tell you the story, not so that you can pat me on the back and say, wow, Christian, you're amazing, but so that you can see what's possible, right? So I guess about 5 years ago, I was going through this study called Experiencing God with my church at Connecting Fellowship. And God was kind of challenging me in some of the ways that I am comfortable, right? Does this sound familiar? It's like it's happening all over again on a 5-year cycle, maybe. So he's challenging me, and, I'm going through this study. And one of the things, I believe it's in Luke, that he says is, if you're not willing to give up everything to follow me, then you're not worth it. It's not, I'm paraphrasing very loosely, but if I find it, I'll put it in the comments. If my wonderful preacher husband knows what I'm talking about, he'll put it in the comments for me, but I may be paraphrasing so badly he can't even do that. So we'll see. Anyway, so as I've been reading this, I'm trying to listen to God and pay attention to where he wants me, what he wants me to do. That's one of the tenets of experiencing God is always at work around you. He's inviting you to become involved in what he's doing, but you have to make the adjustments necessary to join him in what he's doing, right? So he's been working with me on that. He had been working with me on that last little part. So I go to Target this one day, and there's this group of 3 guys standing outside. It's 2 guys who are probably in their 20s and a little boy who's maybe 6 or 7, right? It's like a Saturday, so in my head, it didn't even occur to me that he should have been in school. It may have been a Friday, actually, and I didn't think about it. But either way, they were outside, and he asked him if I had any money. At the time, all I had was hundreds, and I was like, hey, I'll get y'all when I come back. And so when I came back outside, gave him a 20, and as I was putting my stuff in the car, the Holy Spirit, and for those of you who are not religious or who did not grow up Christian, that voice in my head, some people call it Jiminy Cricket or your conscience or whatever. I refer to mine as the Holy Spirit. That's what I believe it is. He says to me, you need to talk to them. And I'm like, talk to them? I gave him $20. What else do you want? Honestly, that's how I felt. And he was like, you need to talk to them. That's all I heard. And so I was like, oh, he must want me to witness to them. Again, Christian. So I grab my little Bible, I walk up to him, and I start a conversation, something to the effect of, tell me what's going on. Why exactly are you guys out here? And so one of the guys goes on to explain to me that he lost his job, and therefore they lost their apartment, him and his family. They were living in a motel around the corner, but they needed money to pay for the hotel that night and to make sure that the babies, that his kids, he ended up having 3 kids, a girlfriend, and the other gentleman that was with him, which was a brother-in-law. Him and his girlfriend lived with them as well. So this is 7 people in one room in a motel, paying by the night, right? And so they were like, I was like, have you had any luck looking for work? And he was like, well, because at the time Target was hiring, and I was like, have you tried here? They have great benefits. I've already heard great things about working at Target. I don't know if you want to work at Target right now, but I don't know. Work is work. Anyway, so I asked him, have you tried applying here? He's like, honestly, I'm just trying to make sure we have somewhere to sleep tonight. And usually it takes me all day to make sure we have enough for the room. And by then everybody's closed. And I was like, I never thought about it. I've never been in that position before. And so at that point I was like, okay, tell you what, I'm going to pay for you guys for the rest of the week or the next 3 nights or whatever it was. I don't remember the exact time frame because it's been a while. And that way you can at least have some time to look for a job. And he was like, what? And I was like, I know it's crazy, but yes, that's what I'm going to do. And he was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Right. So I drop him off and I'm thinking I'm done. And the Holy Spirit's like, give him your phone number. And I'm like, you talking to me? I don't know these people. I did a lot. I dropped them off. I gave them money. I gave them lots of money. I talk. Uh, my brain is not working. And so he tells me, give him your phone number. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I wrote down my phone number, scribe a paper, hand it to him like, hey, if you need anything, give me a call. I'm thinking, good deed done, go home, feel good about myself. Patty, pat, pat, right? Moving on. A few days later, I believe I want to say it was a Tuesday, but I could be wrong. I get a call from him saying, hey, I know you gave us your number and you're probably not going to want to do this, but if you need groceries, would you mind taking us to the store? And I was like, sure. So I grab them, take them to Fiesta. I can actually picture it in my mind. We go to the store. They grab the stuff they need. I pay for it. I take them back and drop them off. Now, all the while, I'm still going through this experiencing God thing, right? And God's been kind of working on me, like something drastic needs to be done. And I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? And I hear this thing replaying in my head saying, you should do this thing. And I'm like, God, that's crazy. No way. I'm not doing that. Everybody's going to think I'm insane. And then when I said that, I was like, oh, well, maybe like I think I'm insane. It's like, yeah, everybody's going to think I'm insane, but you're not doing this for everybody. You're doing this because he told you to and because it's something that they need. And so I wrestled with it. I'm praying about it. I was already fasting with a friend about something else. And at some point, she could tell something was bothering me. She was like, girl, what is going on? And so I tell her this story of the family I met and so on and so forth, and how, just to give you some perspective, for those of you who have never had to try living in a motel, the cost that you end up paying in a month is like double or triple what I was paying to live in my 1-bedroom apartment. If I remember correctly, I think it was $60 a night. For those of you who are smarter than me, you can do the math. I think that's $1,800 a month for a single room with no kitchen. I think they had like either a crock pot or a hot plate or something. For 7 people. For perspective, I paid like $800 for my 1-bedroom apartment. Okay. So I was like, man, paying for them to stay here is crazy. What else can I do? And God was like, giving them your apartment. And I was like, no, what? No way. But as I'm telling my friend this story, I'm telling her I met him and how much staying in the place costs and all of that. She goes, I tell her, what God said, that I should give him my apartment. And she was like, yeah, he told me the same thing. When are you moving? And I was like, oh, this is happening. Okay. So I go through this whole process. I move out of my apartment with the things that I needed. I move back to my parents' house. I will acknowledge that one of the reasons I was even able to do this because I have a really amazing support system. My parents in particular are wonderful. I'm not saying your parents aren't. I just don't know them like that. I know my parents. And they allowed me to move back in. Of course, I had to tell them what I was doing. I'm not going to lie. I would have rathered that no one knew what I was doing. Just because I didn't want people to call me names, and that's a sermon that I'll let my husband preach because that is not my calling. But that's what I felt like. I didn't want people to be thinking stuff about me, to think I was crazy, or to be able to say I told you so if something bad happened or whatever. So anyway, I moved back home, let them have my apartment. They stay there for a few months up until my lease ends, and then we get them into a new apartment, and I paid for that for a little while. And then the relationship changed quite a bit. And I'm just going to say this to you now as a person who has been through it. If God tells you to do something and he's the reason you're doing it, don't stop listening to him while you're doing it or you're going to screw it up. I'm a witness. Off the soapbox. All right. So we go through this whole process, and I, to this day, don't actually know how much money I spent on the process of trying to help them get ahead. But I don't tell you that because I want to brag about how much money I spent. I'm sorry if it's coming across that way. I'm telling you that because me being out of debt, not having anyone that I owed, and keeping my lifestyle pretty minimal, was one of the things that allowed me to do that without concern about the money. The money was never one of the things that worried me in this process. It was more about my reputation and how people perceived me. But all of that financial independence and freedom from debt and from worries and from other stuff like that allowed me to be wildly generous. And that is something that I don't think we talk about is a benefit of being financially independent enough. People who do things like, build wells in other countries. Obviously, there's a way for everyone, and that's where I want to get. Everyone at some level can do something. But when you start hearing about people doing amazing things because of the sums of money that they have available and free to invest, that's what allows you to see the power of money beyond just you and your house, right? And so in this season, where every time I pull up my Facebook, I am accosted by pain and a reminder that, the lives of people of color, particularly Black men, just they don't seem to be as valuable, particularly at the hands of certain people in law enforcement. And that is not to say that I don't have police officers that I know and love. They are wonderful people. And I am sure there are a lot of wonderful people in the police department. The issue we have is bigger than the police department. It's a culture that has taught non-colored people that colored people of color are scary and dangerous and that they just don't matter as much. And because of that, I get to be afraid when my husband is gone at night and he's been gone longer than I think he should. I am a bit of a catastrophist. And so my first thought is, oh no, he's been pulled over by the cops and he's laying in a ditch somewhere and I'm never going to see my husband alive again. I refuse to cry. I have the same thought about my nephews. I have the same thought about my brother-in-law and my dad and my grandfather. And as I keep looking at all of this, I keep asking myself, what can I do? Obviously, there are ways to protest, right? And I completely support everyone who is taking advantage of that right. But I am going to be completely honest. I am terrified of being in a large crowd right now. Absolutely terrified. I have a mom and a dad who are both in vulnerable populations. My grandfather is 94, so he's in there even though he doesn't have any illnesses. I have an aunt who is ill that I really want to go visit, and I would not be comfortable doing that after having been surrounded by hundreds and thousands of people. That's a personal conviction I have. However, I am not content to do nothing. My husband was not content to do nothing. And so we started talking about what were some things we can do. And so I'm going to take you through what we actually literally had this discussion yesterday of what can we do right now. The number one thing I'm going to talk about is donating to the Houston Blood Bank or the Gulf Coast Blood Bank or whatever blood bank where you live, right? There's one reason, obviously there's a reason for that. As protests are escalating, especially if they get more violent, I honestly and personally do hope they remain peaceful for the sake of individuals who would be harmed. Not so much property, but that's a separate discussion. So for those people, and also for people suffering from COVID, disproportionately people of color, particularly African Americans, donating blood is something that is very necessary. Things were already very low. So you put together COVID, protests, and now what seems to be a very busy hurricane season. They are running low, and they've been running low. If you can donate, I am a weak lady. For whatever reason, every time I donate blood, I pass out. They told me not to. And when I say donate blood, I mean just have a little bit drawn in a vial. I've never even tried to do more, but I pass out when they do the small ones. And and the phlebotomist was like, "Do you donate blood?" I literally was at a desk, fine, and just unconscious. She was like, "You donate blood?" And I was like, "I've never tried." And she was like, "I wouldn't. That seems to be touchy for you." So it's not something I do. However, my husband has no problem with it. He did it in college. He did a lot of different donations. And so that's something that he's interested in doing, and also something that's really good for him in particular to do, because he is one of the O's. I think he's O positive. And that is a very high demand blood type, particularly for people of color, because it's the highest incidence of blood types in our community. Number two, there are a lot of places that you can donate time, right? So places like the Houston Food Bank. Obviously, if you're not comfortable either with being part of a protest, but you can assist in some way, there's a link in the description of some people talking about different ways that you can assist protesters in this particular season. They have some stuff that's very particular to cities where people live downtown. Think Chicago, New York kind of situations. It's not as prominent in Houston. You have a little bit of that, but nothing like up there. And so the idea, when people were being hit with tear gas for stupid reasons, the residents of Washington, D.C. Opened their doors to the protesters so that they could escape the tear gas, right? Similar things were happening in New York, where people were allowing them to sit on their stoops and bringing them water. If you know of an organized protest where you have the ability to volunteer to help coordinate or to make sure that people aren't planting rocks all over the place. That was a thing that happened in Houston. Luckily, by the grace of God, it was caught early and most of those projectiles were picked up, but there was someone who was dropping off projectiles along the protest route. Just stop it. So that's one way that you can also donate. There are also a lot of other things. Obviously, COVID is still real, regardless of the fact that we're tired of it. Trust me, I'm tired. However, it's still here. So if you would like to volunteer your time to speak with the elderly, those who are unable to see their families, or those whose they don't really have families and now they can't have visitors either, there are places that you can do stuff like that. And there was one more place you could volunteer time. I've drawn a blank on it, but it's in the description below. The next one, of course, is finances, right? So same thing. Houston Food Bank is always looking for volunteers and financial donations. They make really good work of your money. For every dollar you donate, they can get 3 meals to families, which is amazing. That was one of the people that we chose to sow into. Another one is the Houston Bail Fund. So for protesters who have been arrested and have not been released on their own recognizance, there are groups bailing them out, getting them lawyers, and directing them on where they need to go. So if you're interested in that, it's in the description below. It's another one that we decided to contribute to, because like I said, I'm not going to be out in the streets, but I definitely support what they're doing, and I don't think they need to sit in jail for it, assuming they didn't assault anyone, because that's illegal. But still, yeah. So if you want to donate to some other things, so that was the Houston Bail Fund. It's literally houstonbailfund.com. There's also a website with community bail funds where you can just put in one amount and it'll split your donation amongst, I think it's like 38 or 22 bail funds across the nation, including one in Houston. You can support the families, obviously, directly. The families of Ahmaud Arbery and the family of George Floyd, they both have GoFundMe set up. Those are in the description below. If you would like to donate directly to the families, if you would like to donate directly to Black Lives Matter, that link is in the description below. Black Lives Matter Houston was one of the larger groups helping to bail protesters out of jail in this city. There are some other groups bailing people out in other cities. So if you want one specific to your city, Chris and I found one, I think it's called the Luke 418 Fund. They're bailing people out in Tarrant, Dallas County, that general area. So if you want to check that out, please do so. Last but not least, that what I just described is voting with your time, voting with your wallet, and now we get to vote with our actual votey things. We get to go vote, right? 2020 is an election year. And so a lot of people plan to do early voting, which is wonderful. But something that I've mentioned before and that I will mention again is that most of the people who have been serving in our polling places are in the range of people who should not be outside because COVID, right? And right now, it doesn't look like this is going anywhere anytime soon. So I want to encourage you, if you are somebody who has the bandwidth availability to volunteer, even if it's just a day at your local polling place, go to whatever your voting website is. In Harris County, it's hctax.net /voter/registration. You can go there. You just look, if you just look register to vote in Harris County, it'll bring it up. And on the side, there's a panel that says if you want to become a voter registrar, a person who can register other people to vote. I'm saying her name wrong. There's a link for that up in the top. You can apply online. You will have to attend the training. I hope the training's online, because if not, that's silly. And then you can register others to vote. The other thing you can do on that same page is tell them that you're willing to volunteer at a polling place. This is something I intend to do, because every time I go vote, the people who are running the situation look like my grandparents, which I love. I love that they have something to do, but I would hate for our polling lines to be crazy because only 2 or 3 of them are even able to be out in public to run them. I'm okay. I will figure it out. I have an awesome job. I'm going to encourage all of my coworkers who are eligible to do so, simply because we can vote with our dollars and we can vote with our feet. But at the end of the day, we got to go vote. You can take that to mean what you want. No, you can't. We need to make sure that there are people in this community, not just federal, but local as well, state level, all of them, that think that what's going on is trash and that are willing to do what's necessary to fix it. That was a little more intense than I intended, but you got the point. We will not be having a stimulus package update today. Everything is pretty much at a stalemate until the Senate decides to get off their butts and do something else. I don't know what to tell you. There's just nothing happening. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you are wanting to be more generous, right? You're saying, I've got some money, but I don't have a lot of money, or I don't feel like I have any money. I don't feel like I have anything. I don't have any time. There's nothing I can give. I implore you, if you're looking for places in your budget where you can find the money to help a particular cause, get in touch with me, set up a consultation, 15 minutes, where we can chat about what your priorities are and how you can shift to them. If it's a time issue, I know somebody who is, they help people transition to new jobs. Maybe you need to transition. I think it's Candidly Kindle. I believe that's the name of, she helps certain groups of people shift jobs. If you're looking to start a business so that you can free up some more time, first of all, on the front end, it's probably not going to free up your time, but eventually it will. You can definitely check out some of the business coaches that are here online, or just, find a YouTube video, do something, right? Take this opportunity where there's not a whole lot else we can do to figure out what's important to you and to start making it happen. That's what New January is about, to do the things that matter and to make time and space, whether that's in your calendar or in your wallet, for them. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name again is Christian Barnes. If you are looking to set up something with me, you can go to dobetterfinancial.com/free. I will see you next week on another Weeconomy Wednesday. Have a good one. Bye.